so let's go ahead and prepare our pages. So your paper should be cut down to 11 inches by 11.5, and on the 11.5-inch side at the top I've scored at 3 inches coming all the way down, and then 8.5 inches, and then when we turn it round onto the 11-inch side I've scored it at 5.5. So you're going to do that for all your pages. Now the beauty of this little album is that you can add more pages if you want to, or less. It doesn't really matter. Obviously if you add more to the 5 pages that I've sort of planned for this album, then obviously you're going to need to increase your patterned papers and some of the other elements, but I think that's fairly obvious. So once we've done this, I'm just going to grab here my little board. We're going to cut a little V shape out either side, so it just helps reduce the bulk of when we fold the pages together, especially on that main crease line. So I'm not necessarily going to measure it, but I'm just going to line that up here, and I'm just going to take a slither out, and I'm probably coming from that main score line that's going right through the 5.5-inch score line. I'm probably coming at about a centimetre, if that, or half an inch, but I wouldn't necessarily mark it up and measure it. You can just sort of go ahead. So you end up taking out, and I've cut that a bit cleaner. Here we go. Right, okay. So you end up with that sort of effect to it. All right, and then we're just going to turn that round, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So you need to go ahead and do this on all your pages. Okay, so just going to put that in to that point. Okay, and then we're going to come in and do the same on the other side. Again, I think I need to change my blade by the looks of it. Right, okay. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do that on all of your pages. All right, now what we're going to do is add our red liner tape. So just grab that, and I'm just going to stick it. Now you need to make sure you stick it right to the top. I'm using 9mm because the overlap that we've got, we need to make sure that it's not sticky on the other side when we come to do it. I'll show you what I mean. Let me just fold that over. So we're just going to tuck that one on there. Okay, and we're just going to take that right up. I'm just going to snip that off. So you're looking to make sure that you've gone up as close as you can to the outer edge. I haven't so much in the centre, because when I fold it over, if my angles are slightly out by the way that I've cut them, it's not going to matter. We're not going to end up with any stickiness inside the pocket. So let's just pop that out of the way. It's just grab my little burnish tool, and I'm just going to, actually let's fold these first before I get these creases in. So when I'm folding this, even though I've scored it, I'm just making sure that those edges are nice and straight against the back bit there. Okay, and we're just going to do that on this one. Okay, and I'm just making sure that that line coming across that bottom there is nice and straight as well. Now I can already see that where I've creased that, I'm slightly out on that one. There we go, that's better. And then I'm just going to turn that round and do the same on the other side, like so. And open that one and make sure that is nice and straight. Right, there we are. So that's our 4 bits. We haven't folded the center one yet. We're going to do that in a moment. So this is what I meant by when you put in your red liner tape on as close to the edge as you can, because you're going to have that overlap. Okay, And if I had moved that red liner tape further down, then potentially there could be a bit of stickiness on the inside. I am using red liner tape for this because this is part of the construction of the album itself. But if you don't have it, you can sort of use a good strong glue. So we're going to take one off. I'm just going to fold that down. Now we've pre-creased those, I can just stick that straight down. And we're going to do the same on this one, like so. There we go. All right. So you should end up with it looking like that. It looks a bit weird, but now we can fold this over onto that centerpiece. And before I crease it properly, I'm just going to try and make sure that I get that lined up, because if this isn't parallel or straight against the other bit, it's not going to sit straight in the album. So we might just need, and sometimes the reason why you have to sort of just double check this is because depending on your scoreboards and that, sometimes that can throw it out just a fraction. So I'm just coming in and making sure I've got a nice straight edge. Those edges are meeting one another and we're good to go. So that is our page done. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we need to attach these two bits together. Okay, so we've got the little concertina clip bits. Now I did have it here. Where is it? There we are. Okay, and I've corner rounded these. So these strips are 1.5 inches by 4 1/4, and I've just literally gone down at the 3/4 of an inch with the score line. Okay, I'm gonna corner round them because it just makes it nicer and easier to slot these in, and it gives it a good finish as well. Plus, when you're putting things in and out of the pocket, hopefully your corners aren't going to get dog-eared. Okay, and I'm just going to fold that in half, and I'm just going to give that a nice crease on there. Oh, excuse me. And what we're going to do now is we're going to, where those two parts come over, we're going to slot this down into that center point there, and we're going to glue that together. Okay, so I'm just going to, now I did try it with red liner tape, but it is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to be using some glue. Just grab a couple of my little clips. This is when these clips come in handy for stuff like this. And let me just grab one of my previous pages that I've gone ahead and done. As you can see, I've got those here already. Because I want to make sure that this center point is going to line up nicely with the others. So let me just unclip those for a minute and just take one off, so that I get that center point lined up with the original ones. Okay, it just makes the album look more aesthetically pleasing, but don't panic if you can't quite get them lined up. So I'm just going to pop some glue on here. There we go. Oh, no, we don't go. And let me just grab another glue. There we go. Right. Okay, and I'm putting the glue on the inside part of the bit that we folded. Okay, so lots of lovely glue, and now I'm just going to gently pick that up, and I'm going to hold those two pieces together, and I'm just going to slide that over. I've not stuck it down properly yet. I can just get my other pocket, and you can see I'm slightly out there, so I'm just going to bump that over a little bit. You want to try and get it as central as you can to the pocket, and I suppose you're about 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch off either end. And now I'll get my little clips and I'm just going to hold those down in place like so. Okay, and you need to do that for all your pages, and I've already gone ahead and got the rest of mine done. So let's just untake these off for the minute because that's everything's all dry on there, and then we are ready now to start to put the album together. So I'm just going to give that a few seconds to catch, and then we'll crack on and get that done. Right, so they should all be stuck down. That's it, that's all good to go. And the nice thing is that it also covers up that folded part as well, so it just gives it a nicer, neater finish on there. So now we've got all of these done, and as I can see, I'm lining that up, so they're all in order, and they're pretty much in line, give or take a tiny little bit. But what we're going to do is we are going to join these together. So where the two pockets, where you've got your two concertina bits here, this edge here is going to join up with this edge here, and we're going to do exactly the same. So I'm just going to grab a clip for the minute just to hold that together. All right, just to show you. So the clip is going to go right across, or the, you know, our little hinge, concertina hinge is going to go right across the middle. So just the same as we did on joining our two sides of our page together, we're now going to join the pages together. So let's just go ahead and do this. Now this is sometimes when you need an extra pair of hands, but I've got my friendly little clips, so I think we'll be okay. So I've just made up some of these, and again I'm just going to add some glue to what we need to do. There we are, and I'll get that first one in. So now I'm going to take that out. So when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that these sides are nice and straight and in line with one another. So I'm just going to add a clip on either side. Okay, let's just take that down a little bit, so I've got a little bit of wiggle room at the top. They're the two pieces that I need to join. Okay, and now I'm just going to tuck that in at the top and try and make sure that I've got that lined up with the other hinges, so that we end up having a nice sort of line coming across like that. So that is that one done. I'm just going to tuck in a couple of clips just to hold that down while that fixes. Okay, and then we're going to get the next one and we're going to work our way through and put those all together. So we can now crack on and get that done. Right, that's our next one. Okay, so here we are, that's sort of centered. Trying to keep these as square as I can. Okay, hold them at the bottom. Let's get my next one. Like so this is very much a rinse and repeat, people. Okay, so those should be all right to take out now. So there's my center point of those two other pages. So that's now going to come in and slide over. Plus also having the corners rounded on these concertina hinges helps it to slide nicely into that pocket space as well. Okay, I'm just going to tuck those in like that. Oops. There we go. Nearly lost that one. There we go. Okay, so that is a couple of our pockets done, and now we've just got two more pages to go. So again, I'm just trying to line those up. Now I can see I've got one that has slightly gone over than the other, so I'll just readjust that in there. Right, these clips at the bottom. Like I said, these are really handy for any of these sort of jobs. Okay, and glue. I'm going to join that in like so. Right. Okay, and now I can see where those two are in. There we are, and that's sort of lining up that point. So I'm just going to drop those clips off of that one and into that one. And then our final one, here we are, is this one. And just gonna, I haven't folded that one. There we go. Right, I'll just add a bit of glue to that. Oh, actually, let's get it clipped on first. There we go. And then our final piece, which is going to go on here. So as I said, you can add more pages if you want to, but I think 5 is a good one, or you can reduce them. You know, if you don't want as many pages, then perhaps go with 3. I find it's always nice to go with odd numbers, but there we are. Right, the choice is yours of how many pages you put together. Okay, and now these last 2 are going to come in, and we're just going to tuck that in, line up those, that hinge with the other ones. So just going to push that down and hold those in place. And there we are, and that is our pages put together. Now you could, I've obviously done mine in black card and I've got my panels cut out ready for decoration, but depending on the paper you're using, you could, if you wanted to, actually make these out of your patterned papers, and then you haven't got to worry about decorating them. And then your hinge pieces that you're going to be using to hold it all together, you could have a contrasting paper or a paper that sort of blends in with whatever you've made your pages out of. So it gives you a bit of choice. I've gone with all black for now, but you could do multicolored. You could do like a rainbow colored if you wanted. You know, you can have different shades going through, an ombre. There's lots of things that you can do with your pages. So just because I've gone with the black doesn't mean to say that you've got that. So here we are. We've got a lovely concertina section, okay, where you can tuck in your tickets or photo mats or any other little bits and pieces, little journaling cards and things like that in there. Receipts maybe, depending, you know, if you're using this as a travel, you might want to tuck those in there. And then on the other side is where it opens up and you've got your pages. Now obviously you can see my glue in there, so what I might do, I might just maybe put a little strip of washi tape or something down there. I don't know yet, we'll see when we come to that. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 pages done. So now what we need to move on to is our covers. So I'm just going to pop this to one side and we're going to look at how to do the covers. So for the covers, we've got 6" by 6" squares. Now as you can see, I've already gone round and prepped up one of mine, so I'm just going to show you how I did that. And I'm just going to colour in the corners black, because when I wrap the tape round, I want to make sure that there isn't any construction board showing. So I'm just going to do that on all 4 sides, just a tiny little bit. Okay, let's come in just a little bit, and then our last corner. Now I've made the covers a little bit bigger than the pages, mainly just to sort of protect the pages, because your pages are 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So I've gone up by 1/2 inch, which allows 1/4 inch all the way round. Right, okay, so let's just move my bits out of the way. Right, here we go. So I've got my lovely construction tape. Now, if you don't have any of this to wrap round, you could black ink with a pen all the way around if you wanted to do that. So I'm just going to line that up, hold that in situ. Whoops. Right, okay, let's just pull that. That's it. Right, okay, let's start again. It's a little bit. Hold you there. Come on then. Right. A stick, and then we're going to come in like so. So I'm doing 2 sides at a time, and I'm just going to cut that so it's nice and straight against that edge. All right, so I'm going to come in and snip in one side and one side, and I'm just going, because that's nice and flush against that, I can just run that side down. Okay, there we go. And then on this side, so I get a nice sort of mitre corner, I'm just going to trim off a little diagonal bit. That one's folded over a bit, so I'm just going to cut that bit off. There we go. Let's just stick that off my fingers. Why is it everything sticks to your fingers? Okay, and then I'm just going to run that along, and I'm just going to come in and down like so. Here we are. And now I'm going to do the same on the other side. So let's get a good bit of tape going on there. All right, so now I can line that nice straight edge against there. Just putting this in the center of the tape. And I'm just going to fold that over. Okay, so that's all done with the black tape. And again, I'm just going to come in and snip and snip. And because we're at an edge here, I'm just going to do my mitered corners. Cut those like so. I can just run that one down on there. There you go. And then on this final bit here, I'm going to miter the corners on both ends. 3. And then the final side. There we go, did that cut down properly? Okay, not quite, let's just trim that bit off, there we go. All right, oh, I'm taking the tape off my scissors. Okay, so here we are, and we're just going to tuck that down like so. So now that's our 2 covers done. Okay, so just giving that a nice burnish, getting out any little bumps and creases that might have gone in with my tape. Make sure those corner edges are down. Okay, so now we've done this bit, what we need to do is we need to be able to attach our album pages to our album covers. And I had a little think about this. So I thought this is such a lovely page that I don't necessarily want to stick that right down on there, because I'm going to lose a good solid side. So what I've done is I've cut 2 squares, 5.5 inch squares, and I'm going to attach these on either side, just like we did with the pages. Okay, so I've got my pieces here, because this is the bit that I'm going to use to stick down onto the cover part. Plus, if I mess it up, I'm only going to lose that one bit of card, as opposed to the whole pack of my, not that I'm saying I'm going to mess it up, but you know, anything can happen. So I'm just going to line that up like so, and we're just going to tuck that over the edge, making sure that that is nice and lined in, and that that hinge is lined in with the other hinges. Okay, and now I can take that down and hold that in situ. Okay, so I'm just going to clip on my lovely little clips. Okay, and now I'm just going to turn that round and do the other side. Now, because we've got that little thing standing there, that's just going to hold that up. That's nice. Right, and here we go. We've got our final one here. I'm just going to add some glue. So I'm doing this on both ends, obviously, because we've got our 2 covers. Right. And again, I'm going to tuck that bit in, bring that over. See, making sure we're nice and straight. Bring that over onto there to hold that in place. Okay, I'm just going to tuck 3 on there, and that's just going to hold together like so. So we're just going to let that dry, and then we can attach these. So the idea is we're going to put some red liner tape and glue on these panels, because this is going to hold our cover on the front, and so therefore it needs to be quite strong to be able to hold that, and what we don't want is it peeling off. So that's why I'm going to add some lovely red liner tape to that. So while they're drying, I've got some of my big stuff, and I'm just going to put a couple of strips. All right, if I can find the end. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to put a strip down the middle. It's just to hold the support of everything else. If you don't have wide red liner tape, then obviously, you know, you can just put in some smaller strips. You could use double-sided sheets and cut it to the size and add that in as well. I'm just going to take those off. This one I'm going to put in so it now covers that join. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, I could get another strip in there, so it's going to hold it nice and firm. This is why I find it's always handy to have different sizes or widths of red liner tape, because they, you know, sometimes they come in really, really handy. Okay, right, we're just going to do that. Right, now I'm going to flip that over. I can take those off now. And I'm just going to do the same on this side. So let's start at the top and work my way down. 1, 2, 1 there, 1 in the middle. All good. 1, 2, and then our final bit, 3 down here at the bottom, and then just 2 more strips in the center, and then we're good to go. Okay, here we are. And our final strip on there. So we don't want this album covers going anywhere. They're gonna stick good and proper, she says. Okay, right, so that's all done. So that's ready, and actually putting that tape on the back there has firmed that up a little bit. So the idea is we're going to stick these on here. Now when it comes to your closure for your album, depending on what you want to do, you could either have a little clip bit coming out and round to hold those in place, but you know, like little magnetic sort of fastening. But the easiest option, and that's the one that I've gone for this album, is ribbon. And the ribbon will be attached on the outside before we put the covers on, so I can go ahead and stick these on. So it's always good to just sort of think about how you're going to close your album before you stick your covers on, in case you need to add any extra bits and pieces. Okay, right, so we're going to take the tape off first. I'll take it away from me so my hand don't stick to it. And then I'm going to add some lovely wiggle glue on here. So oh, that's sticking to my hand. There we go. So I've got some glue. I'm just going to put that round the sides. Okay, and I am going to stand up for this because I want to make sure that I get it as centered as I can. So hopefully having that glue on there is going to help in case I mess it up. Right, okay, so I've got my album cover. I'm going to flip that over. Now the beauty is that because it's square, it should be fairly easy then to line it up, and having our 1/4 of an inch going all the way around. Okay, and I think I'm in. Right, so let's just stick that down. That's not bad. That's near as damn it as I would say. Okay, so that's good to go. So you can see why now we've added that extra sheet that's gone in there, just to sort of help that. Now the one thing I did notice is that when you line up your square, that if you've gone over on the tape and actually your album cover or your pages don't actually go over that black edge, then I would just put in another strip of black tape for that. Okay, now it's always tricky doing the second part because you've got to make sure that your covers are in alignment with what is going on the other side. So again, it's just trying to straighten those up. So just looking around that everything's all okay. So I'm going to unpeel this side and get some glue on here, and then we can stick this down, and then that is our album almost done. And then it's just over to decoration and added in all our little extra bits and pieces. Right, so the glue, just going to add, oh, squeaky glue. It's really squeaky. Right, okay, so I suppose you've got a choice. You can either take the album cover to the page or the page to the album cover. I think I'm going to go with it this way because that lies nice and flat. I can see where those edges are, and I'm just going to hold that down and have my fingers crossed that it works. Right, okay, so that stands up all right, that stands up all right. So yeah, I think we're all good to go. And now I can just go in and rub that in, and there we are. And that is our basic album done. So you've got, what I love about this is that you can open it and have it either or way. It's so you can open it up, and here you've got your pages, okay, and which is all good. Or you can open it the other way and you've got your concertina bit. So whatever way you want to use it, you can do. And what I love about it is that these pages are really nice, and you've actually got like a little slots in the top there, although obviously we didn't glue it down at the bottom because I think that will spoil. If we did glue it at the bottom, our album would sort of start looking a bit like that. But to have that concertina effect, you need to leave those pages home. But you could slide in some little tags and things in there if you wanted as well. So there's lots of options of how to go ahead and decorate this. But what I'll do is I'll show you the papers that I've got, what I'm going to use on here initially, and how I put the ribbon on. So I've got some lovely ribbon here. To be honest, I probably wanted it a little bit wider, but this has come out of my stash, and it's actually quite nice. It's quite soft to touch. It's like got a velvet bit on the side, but it's about 35 inches in length. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to find my halfway point, because obviously if you want to add more pages and stack it up a little bit more, I need to make sure that I've got enough ribbon to do that. So just looking at how that's going to sort of wrap around, so that's sort of my halfway mark. I can always trim off a little bit afterwards, after I've put all my patterned papers and stuff in, so having it a little bit longer. And the thing is that by sort of attaching it to the back underneath the paper is going to, you know, secure the album as well. So I've gone for black. The papers that I've selected are this sort of like mottled, sort of off greeny sort of shades, and these were just bits that I had that were just scraps of paper and stuff like that. So I've just sort of cut in and used those. Now these were odd 12 by 12 sheets that I had, so I think I've used about 4 or 5 sheets to cut down to decorate this album, so you're not using up a load. So that's going to be my front cover, because I really love the door, and I'm going with a real grunge feeling on this album. And then this is going to be the back, and I've already gone round and distress inked and done my faux stitching, although you can't see it in some places, but I have faux stitched that. So let's turn this over, because this is now going to be the front of my album. So I'm just going to put a little F on there, so I know that's the front, and just making sure that I've got my sides sorted out. So I'm going to put the ribbon here. So let's just turn this round and let's just measure the distance of where I'm going to put it. And I just need to grab my pencil. Oh, that'll do. There we go, my little pen. All right, so just making sure that I've got this going the right way. So that's the right, that's the way that it's got to go. Okay, so the ribbon has got to go across that way. So okay, so that's my top, bottom. So I'm going to turn that round because the ribbon's going to come down that center point. So we know this is 6 inches, so I'm just going to mark off a 3-inch line. Okay, and across here. There's, it's just a rough guide. Okay, and then that is going to be where I'm going to stick my ribbon. Now normally I put the ribbon, the red liner tape onto the ribbon and stick it down, but I'm going to do it the other way today. So I'm just going to get my strip, because then I can line this up so I can see where that center point is, and it's coming across almost either side of that line that I've just drawn. Just double checking to make sure that my album pages are going the way that I want them. Now because it is square, yeah, no, I have got it the right way, just double checking. It can throw you off a little bit because I want the pages to open that way. So you look at those bits first and then you can turn it over, and then you've got the concertina bit. Okay, so that's good. Right, so I'm just going to take off a tape and get my ribbon. Oh, it's not stuck to everything else. And I'm just going to find my halfway point. There we are. Just going to, right, okay, that's my halfway point. So that's my center point. That's got to come in roughly down the middle, and I'm just going to line that ribbon going across like that. Okay, so now looks a little bit squiffy, but there we go. And then that will come round and tie around the front. Okay, so let's add our cover on the back. Now because I've got a bumpy bit on the back there, obviously that's going to make it a little bit awkward to stick down, so I am going to add some red liner tape to the back bit because I want to make sure that it holds it in place and it's not going to pop it. So just going to do a couple of strips coming along here, so that will hold that in place. Okay, all right, and that's got all the lovely wording. Okay, nice. All right, and now I've got to just check to make sure my wording is up the right way. Okay, so let's just take the tape off, and then I'm just going to add glue. Oops. So all those bits, and then we can get this stuck down, and that's the outside back cover sorted. Okay, squeaky squeaky squeaky, plenty of glue. Make sure I get it in the corners. Right. And now I'm just going to pop this over and onto the top here. And again, with all my papers, I do cut these so that they will leave about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And this is why we put glue on our sticky tape, just so I can realign it. And there we go. Okay, so that is now stuck down on there. Okay, and that is our back cover on. And then we've got our front cover to go. So, okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll just give that a good press down, make sure that that is firmly fixed on. There we are. And now I'm just going to put the front cover on. I normally, I'll be honest, normally I don't decorate my covers until I've finished, but I'm going rogue today. Because it's grungy paper, do you know what? I don't think it's going to matter if it gets a little bit grubby. It will just add to the ambience of the album. Well, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so here we are. So pages, door, and again, I'm just going to line that on there. I don't need to put any double-sided tape on here because we haven't got to go over any ribbon. I'm just going to hold that in place like so. All right, and that's nicely folded. Okay, so I've gone ahead and prepped all my base pages for the main side of the album here, where we've got our main big pages. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've distress inked around the edges and done some faux stitching. And I've cut out, now this is an optional, I've cut out my pocket, which is ready to go in, and I'm putting these in on the two front covers, but you don't have to. Okay, now the pocket is, let's just turn this round, is 6 5/8 of an inch by 3.5 inches, and I've scored 1/2 inch on the two short sides and one long side. So that's going to be my pocket that's going to go on there. And then the paper size for these is slightly different because the cover is slightly bigger and I want to be able to sort of tuck that into the back of the pocket. So these papers are 5 3/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, subtle difference on there, but again, I've gone around and I've inked and done my faux stitching. So excuse me, let's crack on and get the pockets prepared. So I've just put a little bit of red liner tape on those 3 scored edges, and I'm just going to cut to the crossover lines. Okay, and then I'm just going to give it a little wonky bit, and then I'm going to come across again to those where those score lines cross over, and again I'm just going to give that a little wonky bit. All right, and this is where we're now going to fold back and put these pockets in. So I'm just going to fold that back, just going to give that a little burnish. Oh, excuse me. And here we go, we're going to do the next one and the other side, and I'm going to repeat that on the back pocket, which I've already cut. And I'm just going to do that as well so we can get both done at the same time. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit awkward because this page has a tendency wants to fall down, so I'm just going to gently prop that open, and I'm just going to grip that to another page just to hold that down for the minute so I can actually get in there. So with the pocket, we're going to have it so it sits and it comes down just above the edge of the cover, about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom and from the side. And you will see that there is a little bit, it's a little bit hard. Let me take that page around like that. And there will be a little bit of clearance on where that hinge bit is. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick this down. So let's just take the tape off. Now I always do the bottom bit first. I'll just pop that liner, always sticks to my fingers. And we're just going to get some glue just to give me a little bit of wiggle room as I sort of place it in. Okay, and I'm just going to turn this round so you can see. So I'm coming in just down probably where that paper line was, and I'm just going to attach that. So it, like I said, it's about 1/8 of an inch from the base and from this edge here. So that's sort of sitting quite nicely, and now I can open that up and I can peel off these side bits and drop that down. So let's just do that, and the page still wants to keep closing. Okay, we're just going to have to hold it up as we do this bit. Okay, that's going to come down. I'll just make sure those are going in. So we're going to tuck that down, holding it down flat, and that goes in like so. Okay, so that's the first pocket in, and then we've got our paper, which is going to slide inside, which is going to cover up the little lugs that are on the actual paper itself. Now I've just realised normally I do put a little bit of tape to go in there, but because we're dropping this down, that should slide in like so, and then that's going to sit quite nicely in there, and it just comes in on that edge there as well. In fact, to make that 1/8, well, I don't, actually that's not bad. That will do us. Okay, so that's going to tuck into there. That's going to be my pocket front, so I'm just going to tuck that one in there. So let's just do the back pocket. So I'll just flip this over. You can see I've put my pages in where they're going to be going. Okay, and I don't want to force that. Right, and then we're going to just do the same on the other cover. As soon as I can get the red liner tape off, there we go. I'm just going to add my little bit of wiggle glue. Okay, now if you are paper piecing your album, then what I suggest is that you put a little bit of black tape on the base here. So let's just line this up. Again, coming in at 1/8 of an inch, and from the side. Apologise, you can't see what I'm doing. I'll hold it up in just a minute. Right, okay. Let's tuck that in. So that's the base bit down. Okay, and again, it's 1/8 of an inch in and from the base. Yeah, so if you're going to be paper piecing, so what I mean by that is, say you've got a whole sheet and you want the pattern to follow its way through, then you might cut a bit and then have the next bit coming down, which is fine. But obviously, if you're putting things inside and out, then what I would normally do is put a little bit of black tape just over that hinge bit there. Okay, just to sort of stop anything from catching. But because we're going to be using a whole page to go right the way down, I won't need to worry about that. So we're just going to do this next two sides. Okay, and just going to drop this in. Now, because I'm sort of going sort of a bit mixed media with this, so it's not quite a junk journal, it's not quite an album, it's a bit of both. Okay, but I've just put this here because then I could put pockets and other bits and pieces, you know, not pockets, put tags or photo mats or something like that in there if I wanted to. So let's just tuck those papers in ready. And I think I might need to just trim that one just a fraction. Now my measurements in my instructions, sometimes depending on the scoring, will determine whether you need to trim a little bit off, and I think I'm going to have to do that on that one. So I'm just going to tuck that in there for now and not worry about it. We'll deal with that bit later. Okay, so what I wanted to sort of talk to you about is that with the album pages, now these papers are quite nicely distressed and that already, and but I just wanted to talk to you about different things that you can do when it comes to our junk journaling. And I've already prepared some bits and pieces. So if I just show you what I've got. Now, some of these were pre-printed from the papers that I use. There's a whole sheet of tags and tickets and things like that. But then I did use the lovely pocket book filler die set from Cool Cats Craft. It's new, it's one of their latest one, and it's got lots of lovely bits and pieces and stuff in there, so you can use loads of these bits for using up your scraps. And that's pretty much what I've done. I've cut like little pockets, I've got like little photo frame there, there's some tags, little tags, there's another pocket there. So there's all sorts, little mini envelope, which I think is really cute, little mini envelope. What else have I got in here? There was some other tags. So there's all sorts of bits and pieces going on in here, as you can see. Now I've tipped it all out. It's a bit of a mess. Okay. Some of the big things that I had come through were in the kit on the papers already. So I've used those. And then there's my other little envelopes there. And then I had some circles. Now on the paper, I used the circle punches to cut out on their paper sheet that came with the paper range. And then I've just backed it with some black cardstock just to help those pop a little bit as well. And what else have I got? And some tags. Now these tags were beautiful to cut out from my scraps as well. And we've got other slightly smaller tags. So as you can see, there's lots of lovely bits and pieces sort of going on. These are really cute. I love these from the Cool Cats Craft collection, because these are just sort of little tuck-ons and things like that. So you could sort of tuck it in on the front of a pocket or what have you, or depending which way you put it, you might want it to go that way. But you've got lots of little bits and pieces to do that. So that's what I did. And yes, I did go around and faux stitch them all and ink them all, because I just want that to follow through on the scheme of things. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that to one side. And then I had some of these long strips left over, and what you can see here, I've done a torn edge and I've sort of just gone over it with the black distress ink, so that I can sort of maybe layer it or do something with it as well. So I've got those. And the other thing that I used was my little envelope maker. So I had some of the papers left over, and I've just made myself a nice little envelope. And so I'm probably going to make another one. So there's lots of different things that you can make to go into your album. Okay, and like I said, with some of the sheets as well that I'm using for the pages, I mean, that's beautiful. It's just got a number 2 on there. You've got a little circle there. So I wanted to sort of really talk to you about other things that you can add apart from the sort of pre-cut dies and what have you. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is that Cool Cats Craft also do these really cute little postage stamp dies as well. So with some of my strips that I've got left, I might cut out some little little stamps to go here and there as well. So there's lots of lovely goodies and things that you can use. But other things that you can sort of put into a junk journal. Now, if you are starting your junk journal journey, shall we say. As I said, this is a bit of a crossover between an album and a bit of a junk journal. There are lots of things that you can do. And let me just find, because I quite like that page there, let me just find a blankish page that's only just got the pattern on the background. So like this one here, we got a few sort of splodges. This page again, there's a few splodges. As you can see, I've got it so it goes across. Let's just have a look, see if there's anything else. This one, I love the greens and the little squiggles and stuff like that. This one is, yeah, again, you've got some detail and things on there. So just having a look at your papers. If you haven't got anything like that, what can we do? So here we go. So I'm going to go with this one. All right. And I've dug out loads of quirky stamps, some stencils, and things. And I've even got some little brads and stuff that I thought we can add to our pages. And the nice thing is that you can get to play around with these. So let me just grab, where are those lovely 2 stencils that I've chosen. So I've just got a couple of brick ones, but I didn't want perfect bricks. And the reason I'm using bricks is because the paper that's on the very front has got a little door. So it's a bit of a nod back to the front cover. Okay. And I'm literally, I think what we're going to do, should we do the smaller ones? Yes, let's do the smaller ones. And I'm just going to get some of my distress ink. And we're just going to double that on there. And I'm just going to go over here and there. Okay. Doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just adding a little bit of detail to our page. Okay, so although that's got quite a lot going on in it, but I'll just see if that will sort of come through on there. So we've got a little bit of brick going on there. I might add a little bit down in this corner. So if you've got stencils, great fun for doing sort of things like this, just to add a bit more detail to your page. Okay. And I might just put a little bit coming up off this top here. So we're just sort of going in. Now I am using black, but you could use other colours. You could use oxides, you know, so whatever you're going to use, that's absolutely fine, or whatever you've got to hand. So this is one thing that you can do, is you can do a bit of stenciling to go on your pages. And the best thing is to sort of do this now before you stick your pages down, is enhance your backgrounds even more if that's what you want to do. Okay, so I've just put a little bit of brick on that one. Do I want to add a little bit of brick somewhere else? Let's have a little look at this back page. No, that's got quite a lot of detail on it, so you can just sort of go through and sort of tie it all in a little bit. No, that one doesn't lend itself to a bit of brickwork. Let's have a little look. Oh, right, okay, it's number 2. We might just put a little bit of brick coming down in this bottom corner here. There is no rules to this. You can do as much or as little as you like. Okay, I'm just putting that little bit in there, just sort of shades that in. Okay, I'm just going to put that to one side, and that will have a bit of a clean. So that is use of stencils. Right, so now we can have a little look at some of the stamps that I've pulled out. I've just grabbed these out of my collection, and depending on the theme, sometimes you need to go with the theme for your journal, okay, or your album. Now this one, I know on some of the little bits and pieces there's some lovely dragonfly bits, so I could add in a bit of floral if I wanted, and just have some like little frames here. I've got some little flowers, so I could sort of add those in. I've also got things like buttons, but I don't think the buttons are gonna necessarily work on there. What else have I got? So it's a good opportunity to have a little look in your stash and see the sort of things that you might have already, save you having to buy anything. You see here, this is something I picked up. You've got little details there, might look good on there. And I bought this set. Honestly, I can't remember where I got it from, but this is really cool as well. It's got lovely circles and squiggles and lines and things like that. So I could add some of that on there. What else have I got? Oh, they were the buttons. Oh, this lovely Elizabeth Craft Design set. It's got some beautiful hinges on there, and it's got some of the little square, little, like almost the tops of your screws on there as well. So we've got some nicely decorated hinges, and because it's a door, I could use a couple of those hinges stamped here and there just to give it a little bit more detail. And I love this, hinged on you, so that's a good one that I might use. And then here, now I know you can't see this, but on here there is some there's a butterfly, a couple of butterflies there. There's it's what I call my steampunk one. There's all sorts of little bits and pieces on here, so I might be able to utilize some of that as well. Okay, but I think what we're going to do is just to sort of give you a little indication. I'm just going to grab one of these if I can get it out the packet. Normally I have mine all on my white sheet, so I haven't got that far with this lot. So okay, and it's now in another sealed container. Okay, I'll take that out of there, and here we are. So I'm not going to lose me a bit of acetate. So what have we got? So because some of these have already got some squiggles and things on there, although they're smaller, bigger than these, we could add in a couple of details. So I quite like this one. So let's just get my blocks. Just going to add, just going to stick that on there, and then I've got my ink. So I've got some black ink. You don't have to use black ink, you could use any other colour, but because of the way that this paper lends itself, I'm going to put the black on. So got my ink on there. Let's give this a go. So I'm just going to line this up and put a squiggle down on that page. See, now it's starting to lift it a little bit more. So I quite like that squiggle. So that's that first page there. Shall I use this squiggle somewhere else? Now these haven't really, they've got some detail in the background, but they haven't really got anything else. So let's just add, let's come down the side like so, and then I'm going to come up the other way on the opposite side. So when these are together, let's just make sure I've got these round the right way. Yep, so it's this corner, and it doesn't matter whether it's straight or not, so I quite like that. I've just added a little bit of detail to those. Is there anything else that might need a little bit? And you just start working your way through and building up on what you've got. So let's just take that in there and see how quick and easy this is. Now obviously without that, this has got quite a lot on it, but I might be able to get one coming down that side. It's meant to be random with your junk journals. It's not meant to be completely precise. This one has got squiggles on it already. Do I need squiggles anywhere else? See, that's got a bit of squiggle on it. And this last back page, that's got a squiggle on it. So I think we're good to go on those. So I'm just going to give them a stamp a little clean. And then I might pick something else. So what else could I have on here? I quite like some of the circles. So I quite like this middle circle. So again, I might pop that on here and there. So let's just, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a complete round circle. We could come off the page slightly. So that's why I've got a little sheet here. So I'm going to just put a bit of ink on here, and I'm just going to come off that page corner a little bit. All right, so we've just got a little bit of detail on that one, and on this top one up here I might bring that down and do a little bit more on there. And again, you just build up with what you've got. I don't know if I need to put the circles on anywhere else. That's got our bricks on there. I might put a square on there, like so. Oh, we could do a nice little circle over in this corner. Just and I'm literally just putting it wherever. I'm not being precise with this. Let's have a little look what we got here. That's got quite a lot of busy stuff going on in the background, so I'm probably going to leave that one. And then my front page, no, I'm going to leave that like that. Right, let's just stamp that off, give that a quick clean, and then we can move on to the other one. So you're just building up your base pages, and this is before oh, excuse me, before oh dear, before we've stuck anything else, anything onto our page itself. Quite like this little square, so let's go with a little square like so. So I'm just building up, but this is mainly because, I mean, my papers, to be perfectly honest, have got quite a lot of detail on them already. I'm just adding, so I don't think that needs anything on there at all. Circle on that one. Where was the one that I said would look quite nice with a square? Maybe this one. I'm just going to randomly stick a square in over here. Okay, it's got circles on it, and I think this back one, I said I might stick a square in on there as well, and I can come off that page a little bit, and we'll just put one in over there. There we go. All right, so you get the idea. And then I think I'm going to add maybe a couple of butterflies here and there. I did look to see if I had a dragonfly, but I couldn't find one. Oh, and my hinge as well I was going to do. So I like these sets because you actually get the die as well that go with it. We do sell Elizabeth Craft stuff in the shop, so do pop over and have a little look. So let's just take the little dies out. You can tell I've not used it. It's well and truly stuck on here, and I think I'm going to go with the middle one. So let's just get my other block. You can have lots of time and effort, you know, you can spend time on your decoration. I'm just randomly doing this sort of stuff. Okay, so we're just going to put our hinges, nice like little hinge in that top corner. All right, where did that come from? That come from the back bit. Okay, let's come right round to the front. No, I don't think that needs to go on there. We might stick a hinge in on here somewhere. Like so. Just a nod to the doors. I think that's what we're going to do on that one. And then, like I said, I'm just going to put in a couple of butterflies here and there. There we go. And my butterfly, I've got a small little butterfly. I've got bottles on there. Just having a little look. No, let's go with the little butterfly. Or I could go up with a bigger one, but just literally randomly sticking butterflies here, there and everywhere. But this is what I love. You just get to play. You just get to play with all those lovely paper, paper. I can't get my words out. Stamps and bits and pieces. You know, you get to sort of have a good play with those. You see, we overlap on that one. I don't think I need any more. Do I need any on that front one? Shall I stick a little butterfly on there? Let's just move my paper out the way. There we go. And we're just going to stick a butterfly coming over that number 2. Okay, and that's just lifted that a little bit more. All right, so that's another technique you've got. So we've talked about stencils. We've talked about our stamps that you can use to decorate your pages. Now, let's just clear this all away. Other pieces or other things that you can decorate your pages with, rice paper, tissue paper. Although this is all quite smooth at the moment, but you could add some layers of tissue paper that will give your pages a bit of texture. Okay, as I said, rice paper, you might have an old book that you've torn up. You can use a bit of that. If you've got stamps with wording on, then you could sort of maybe like text and that, you could sort of stamp that on. You can stamp on alphabets or add alphabet letters to it, rub-ons. There is so much that you can do to enhance your pages. Like I said, the little teared bits of papers. So, I mean, I might just rip that one down like so. So this is just how I did it. Very randomly. Just tore that. So I can use part of that to sort of sit on my page if I want to. So there's lots of options. And what I did with this, I just went over it and just brushed it down and knocked back that white, or I could have used a different colour, but this is what else I did. Okay, so like so I could maybe, you know, sort of stick that on somewhere else. However, that is a little bit too white for me, so I might just trim that down just a little bit and take that back further to the page, to the bit of patterned cardstock on there. But you can be as brutal as you like, but just have a play, and that's what I love about this. Okay, so it's like that one. So rather than, I might have it at an angle, I might have it coming down, I might just have it as a trim bit. If I was using a slightly thicker bit, I might have that as a little tuck-in spot. So there's lots of different things that you can do with that. Okay, so let's just come back to our main album pockets here. So I would just literally stick these on. I always stick on the front pocket bit first, so I can align the back pocket sheet to that. Okay, but that is quite a snug fit. All right, so I can stick that on. I'm quite happy with what I've done on there, so I can stick that down. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is using brads or eyelets and things like that to add a bit more texture. So for example, on this page here, I might want to put a hole in there and maybe add a little what have I got here? I've got some like screw top ones that look like screw top brads, and so I can sort of maybe tuck that in. So I'm going to add that in, but obviously you need to add it before you stick it down. So I'm just going to poke a hole in there. There we go. All right. So already I've just added a little bit of detail on there. I've got some other smaller ones. I've got some cross ones. I've got some lots of little coloured ones. You could add charms to your album itself. So if you wanted to, you could punch a hole right the way through and drop a charm ring coming down. Yeah, I think well, there's lots that you can do. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick some of these pages in, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what I've done, and just to sort of give you some other ideas. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. So I've gone in and added just a couple of little bits just to talk you through. So I've added a bit of ribbon here for texture. Obviously I've added my brad, added a little bit of washi tape is another good one. This is my little bit of tissue paper. It doesn't look much at the moment, but once you start putting your layers on, and that will come up fine. I've left that one sort of blank. This has got a bit of tissue, bit of washi tape rather, and that strip that I sort of tore off. So I've just added that in, and another little bit of washi tape and another little brad there. So you start building up your pages. So what I need to do now is work out which pages are going to have photo mats on them, and which ones I'm just going to leave purely as paper, you know, just the actual patterned paper itself. So I'm just looking to see if I had any. It's typical, isn't it? I just don't have any 3x4s done, but let's just, oh, there's just a sheet which will have my photo mat on it. So I quite like, I'm just going to go through and put roughly where I'm going to put my photo mat. So I quite like that, and then I can build up around that number 2 there. I might put another photo mat. Let's just grab a couple more of these. I will mount these onto black cardstock, but I can put another photo there. And again, they don't have to be straight. You can have them a little bit wonky. Again, on these ones, let's just grab some more of these. Let's have a little look. I might just put one going in over there, but I might put a bit more detail on there. So you can be quite random with your photo mats. These are just 3x4s that I'm using at the moment. You could put on a 4x4, that would fit on here as well. So I'm just going to tuck in where I think I might quite like to put photo mat, and then maybe have one at the back. And then I've got space to put extra photo mats in at the back, in the pockets and the front pocket. So now that I've sort of got that as my rough sort of guide as to what I'm going to be, where I'm going to be putting my photo mats, I can now start looking at all my ephemera bits and pieces and things that I've got here ready to go on. The other thing that I was going to talk to you about is that obviously if you've got any rub-ons or anything like that, you can use those, if I've not mentioned that before. There's so much stuff that you can put in a junk journal, and it doesn't have to look quite as tidy as probably what mine is. You can really go to town on it. So let's just cut out our little 3x4 photo mat, and we're just going to, oh, that's not quite the right size. Have I got something in my stash that I can cut out? Let's have a little look. Yes, here we go. So right, so I'm just going to trim that down to 3¼ inches by 4¼ so let's do the 4¼ which I think is about there. Okay, by 3¼ by 3¼ like so. And that's ready for my photo mats to go on like so. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a guide for where I'm going to put everything else. So we're going to I'm just going to leave that front pocket first. I'm just going to clip something on there just to weight that down a little bit while we're working on it. There we go. Okay, so I quite like that there. Now in amongst all my stuff I've got a number 2, so having maybe a clock might look quite nice to sort of go with that. And we're just going to go through and sort out all the other little bits. Quite like a ticket looks quite good. That's sort of got a number 2 that sort of links in with that. What else have I got? Maybe a little tag. I did have some mini little tags somewhere. I could tuck maybe one of these at the top before I stick this down. And we're just going to build up with what we've got. So I quite like the ticket. Obviously whatever the photo is going to be, that's going to go in there. I don't want to detract too much from the photo, but I'm hoping that you'll get the idea of what we can do. And it's always good to do things in 3s. So we've got a nice little tuck in there, or I did have a little tag. There's my little tag, so I could tuck that in there like so. So we're trying to sort of balance out the page a bit. Yeah, so I don't quite want that to sit over where the brad is, but if I bring that round a little bit. Okay, so that's how I'm going to gradually build up my pages. Now let's just have a little look, and we'll just put those bits to one side because that's like the side one. This is my double one. Now this one I might have let's see, need that to go against something a little bit lighter. So I've got the railway, we've got sort of travel bit on there, that might work. So you just got to work your way through really. Here we are, we've got like a little pocket. See, that could sit quite nicely with a tag in. And I've got the little tags that go in those. That's got a bit of the arch to a doorway, which sort of ties in nicely with the hinge. So that might work better on there. This one I've got my envelope. So I could sort of tuck that in on there like so. And let's have a look, see what else have we got. We've got another, so I could tuck the tag in, and you just build up and build up your layers of what you want to go in. You see that we've picked up there, so I might have that coming in down there. So I could fill that whole side with the ephemera bits, and then I could actually just add my photo there, and then I can tuck in some other little bits and pieces. There we are, we've got a little circle going on there at the top bit. Now I've got these like little tuck-in slot corner thingies, so I could actually tuck that in on there like so. Obviously once it's all glued down it might look a little it'll look better, but you get the idea. So we're gradually working our way through what we're going to put in our album. We've got a nice little dragonfly there, but I think I'm going to save that. See here I've got a pocket, but this doesn't need to have a pocket on there necessarily. So again, let's just move this out for the minute. I'm just going to sandwich that lot in between there. I might move things around a bit. So on this one, again, I've got that bit of detail going on in the background. I've got that's quite dark on that side, so I might have the photo coming in over there. Okay. And I might then sort of build that up on there. You get the idea. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to carry on having a little play. And and then we'll come back and have a little look what we've done. Okay, right, so I've finished going through and decorating the pages. So here we are. What I've done is I've tucked in some photo mats. So I've got some 4x4 photo mats and 3x4 in there, and then I had a couple of tags left over that I cut out, so I've just tucked those in there. I've just put some little details in, so like here where I've got these pockets and this little envelope, I've just tucked in little bits there, so you can add a little bit of journaling or something to that. Here was where I put the brad, and obviously you saw me do those pages earlier, and here I've just put a Velcro dot now on that, and I can tuck some bits in there, and I've got a little envelope. There's my other photo mats. Here we've got another little envelope which just got a little postage stamp which just fitted just nicely in there, and again some tags and some corner parts and things like that. Now this one I left quite plain because I just quite like the paper going right the way across, so I've just added a little bit of detail on the bottom here, and just one photo on there, but I did like that real grunge on that, and where we've done some of the stenciling and everything else, so I've just left that plain. But you could, you know, with a black pen do some journaling and that on there. There's enough space, so it looks a bit like graffiti on a wall, which I think would look quite nice. And then these ones again, I've sort of done opposite but tweaked it slightly. And again, you've got all the details here that we stamped in. There was the little bit of the washi tape going on around there, and then on the back one we've got another photo mat, and then here I've left the like little Polaroid die that I had. I've left that blank because then I could maybe add a bit of journaling in there. And then I've gone ahead and done again the 4x4 photo mats, 3x4. Now you could squeeze in a 4x5 if you wanted, so if you had some 4x6 photos you could add those in as well. Okay, and then on the front I just added a little bit, I had a couple of elements left over, so I've just added that in there. I've just, funny enough, I was at a retreat at the weekend and I managed to pick up some dragonfly dies, which stamps rather, so I've put a stamp on there, and then I just put the word in memories at the bottom, so it just sort of finishes that off. Now what we need to talk about now is what we're going to do with our concertina bit, because we've got all these lovely pockets. Okay, so let me just show you what I've gone ahead and done, and then I'm going to take you through how to make one of these. So I had some papers left over, so I've just made a couple of envelopes, and I thought these are handy for tucking in receipts or tickets and things like that. So, oh, there's my little thing just falling out. I'll pop that back in a minute. So if I just stand that up so I can tuck these in, so I might put one in there. So these are good for you know, hanging on to little bits and pieces, like I said, receipts, tickets, might be other little things that you find. And then we've got these like little tags. Now what I've done on here is a couple of things. So these ones I've put little tag pulls on there so you can get them out of your pockets. But here we've got place photo, and then on the back I found an old little notebook, so I've just trimmed that down to make my line pages for my journaling. And because I've got 10 pockets in the back of this, if I was going away for 10 days, and then that's a pocket a day, and then I could just write on these what I want to do. Obviously if you're going away for longer, you could add maybe a couple more if you wanted this, like a travel, you know, for like a travel type journal. You could add more or less depending on what you want, but that's the beauty of this album, because there's not a fixed spine. You know, you can sort of come up or you can drop it down a bit. So that's what I did on those, and I've just used scraps of card stock here, and I'll give you all the measurements on the cutting and scoring guides as well. So they're all just sort of basic ones. Then this one I really liked, it just had the dragonfly on it, so I've just put that on the back as a decorative piece. And again, I've got my journaling. And then this one here, I had a couple where I had some plainer paper. Oops, let's pop that one on there. Had some plainer paper, so I've just put those on, and then I've just stamped them with the place photo here. So it gives you an opportunity to do different things. Now again, depending on how bulky and that you want, you could take some of your leftover elements, if you've got some, and actually add them to the back of the back of these cards as well. So you could really go to town on here. I decided I just wanted it quite sort of plain, but that doesn't mean to say that you don't have to do that. You can sort of decorate like we did with the pages. You can just do that on the back. So let's just tuck these out the way, and I'm just going to show you what I did with our little photo mat. So I cut these at let me just get my ruler just to double check. So I've cut these at 3 1/4 inch by 5 inches. Okay, and I've got my little tag punch here, and I've just punched out one of my little tags. If you don't have anything like this, you could cut a couple of circles and just sort of put them at the top, so you've still got something coming up from the edge to help with that. But these are really quite handy, so I'm just going to glue this on like so. Now, because we've got that concertina bit at the back, if you wanted to, you could label these. I mean, perhaps, you know, like I said, if you're going away for so many days, you could write the date on these little tags, and you know, so when they go through the album, you can actually sort of pick out the day that you want. And also, the other thing I was thinking of is that you could almost, I mean, I've gone for the, aiming to go for the center of my little card. But when you put these in your concertina bit, you could have these stacked across like you would in an index file, so you can find them a lot easier. So that's what I've done there. So I'm just going to glue that. I think that's slightly over, but it doesn't matter. Right, okay, so then I had my corner rounders, because I just wanted to add a bit of detail. So on the top I did the fancy bit, I like little double curved edge like so, and then I just corner rounded the bottom, because getting it in and out of the album, I just want to make sure that it doesn't dog-ear the corners. So I'm just going to sort of take those off like so, and now it's just a case of putting these all together. So what I did is I put, now my photo mats I do with a little bit of tape, because if I was gifting this to somebody and they wanted to add their photos, they could take this off, and that's why I only ever use like photocopy paper, really thin paper. So I just sort of stick that on there, but it just gives people, if you're giving it as a gift, an idea of what they should be putting on there. And then I've just got my little frame here. I don't know if you can hear, he's meowing his head off. Yes, Mick. Bear with me just 1 minute. I know. Right, and I'm just going to pop that on there and try and line it up a little bit. Okay, and straighten that up a little bit. Okay, he's obviously joining in today. He's been quite vocal. Bear with me just 1 minute. Right, okay, we'll carry on. And now this paper is a little bit thin. I mean, I could mount that on a bit of card, or you could do it on white card and put your lines in, or just have plain white card. But I've just gone for what I had to hand. So I'm just going to stick this on like so. And we're just going to pop that on there. But whatever you've got to hand, you can use, obviously. There we go. And now I'm just going to stick this last little bit on top. There we are. Just going to line that up. Okay. Oops. made that one a little bit squiffy. I think I've stuck my paper on a little bit wonky. Either that or I've cut it a bit wonky. But it's for me, so it doesn't matter too much. All right, so there we go. So let's just pop these into our album. But you can add in all sorts of bits and pieces in here. You might have some dies that might make little portfolios that you can tuck into here. The choice is yours. But just as a nice quick little one, I thought we'll just do some cards. So I'm just going to pop these in each pocket. So make 10 of these. Now I could as well punch a hole in the top of my tab and thread a bit of string or something in there as well if I wanted to, or a bit of ribbon or baker's twine, you know, if you find it's easier to sort of help you pull these out. But I've sort of left enough that I can go in and grab it with my fingers. And as I was saying, with the, you know, if you wanted to do it like an index, and on your cards you could have them, you could move this so you can stack it so it goes across. Let's tuck that one in there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then our final one is going to tuck in there where the envelope is. And that is our album done. So I'll tie that up, and there we are. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and please do like and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because every little one helps us build our community. And yeah, and there we have it, one lovely little album done, ready for whatever you want to put in it, whether it's journaling, photos, just keeping some memorabilia bits and pieces. The floor's open to you guys to decide what you want to use it for. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.